We live in an era marked by technological advancement and the promise of individual freedom. However, the reality is paradoxical. Despite their apparent autonomy, many feel trapped in routines, obligations, and systems that limit their choices and imprison their spirit. Max Weber, one of the greatest sociologists in history, described this phenomenon with the metaphor of the iron cage, an invisible prison that imprisons the individual not with chains, but with rules, norms, and excessive rationality. This cage is built by bureaucracy, by the rationalization of social and economic life, which values efficiency, standardization, and control above all else. The individual, in this system, ceases to be a complete human being and becomes a functional part, reduced to a set of functions and roles within a gigantic social machine. The invisibility of the cage makes the prison even more cruel, because many do not even realize that they are imprisoned. The daily routine, the pressure for results, and social conformity make people accept, often without questioning, this limitation. Max Weber identified the main force shaping the iron cage as the process of rationalization. This process involves the increasing dominance of logic, efficiency, predictability, and calculation over all aspects of social, economic, and political life. Historically, before modernity, life was permeated by traditions, beliefs, and values that gave meaning to human actions. With the rise of modernity, these elements were gradually replaced by bureaucratic norms, technical rules, and organizational structures based on efficiency. Bureaucracy, as an ideal form of rationalized organization, offers stability, order, and control, but demands strict conformity and reduces the space for autonomy and creativity. In a bureaucratic environment, people are seen as functions to be performed rather than as unique and complex individuals. This model has expanded beyond public and private institutions, reaching areas such as education, health, and even social relations, where the logic of efficiency transforms human interactions into mechanical and predictable processes. Rationalization creates a closed system where progress and organization come at the expense of spontaneity and personal freedom. This is the essence of the iron cage, a space where order and efficiency are achieved at the expense of humanity and freedom. One of the pillars of Max Weber's iron cage is bureaucracy, the organizational system based on clear rules, rigid hierarchy, and specialized division of labor. Bureaucracy is the embodiment of rationalization in the administration of modern societies. This system allows large organizations to function efficiently and predictably, but it comes at a high price to the individual. Each person within the bureaucracy is seen as a performer of specific tasks, losing their individuality and autonomy. Creativity, personal judgment, and flexibility are replaced by rigid rules and procedures. Impersonal bureaucracy creates an emotional distance between people, reducing human relationships to formal and functional interactions. Employees are evaluated by their ability to comply with rules, not by their character or unique contribution. In everyday life, this structure can generate alienation, stress, and dissatisfaction, as the worker feels trapped in a mechanical and repetitive routine. Efficiency, which should be a means to improve life, ends up becoming an end, imprisoning both action and the human spirit. Max Weber also spoke of the disenchantment of the world, a process by which life loses its mystical, symbolic, and meaningful aura, being replaced by the cold logic of rationality and technology. In past eras, human existence was immersed in rituals, beliefs, and values that gave deep meaning to everyday experiences. The world was a place full of mysteries, spiritual connections, and transcendental purposes. With the advance of modernity, this vision was undone. Science and bureaucracy took its place, explaining everything through logic, data, and standardized procedures. The result is a disenchanted world, where mystery gives way to calculation and life seems like a soulless machine. This disenchantment has a devastating effect on human beings, as it leaves us without symbolic references that nourish our spirit. Life becomes a series of repetitive tasks, quantitative goals, and impersonal obligations. The iron cage is therefore also a spiritual prison. We are kept inside it not only by external rules, but by the loss of meaning and connection with something greater. In the context of modernity described by Max Weber, work becomes one of the main spaces where efficiency dominates and humanity is put to the test. The modern worker is no longer seen as an integral subject, but as a functional part within a system that values productivity above all else. The constant pressure for measurable results, deadlines, and goals turns work into a mechanized activity, often devoid of personal meaning. The worker loses connection with the purpose of what he does, becoming an executor of repetitive and fragmented tasks. This fragmentation and standardization promote alienation, a feeling of disconnection between the individual and the product of his or her efforts. Work, which could be a source of fulfillment and dignity, becomes a factor of physical and emotional exhaustion. Furthermore, the pursuit of efficiency creates competitive and stressful environments, where solidarity and care between people are often sacrificed for the sake of individual performance. Max Weber argues that with extreme rationalization and a focus on efficiency comes a phenomenon he calls alienation, a profound disconnection between the individual and the world around him or her, including oneself. In modern society, this alienation manifests itself in the loss of meaning in actions, the fragmentation of identity, and the distancing of human relationships. When people are reduced to functions and numbers, they lose touch with their passions, inner motivations, and personal values. Work becomes merely a means to an end, a paycheck, rather than an expression of individuality or purpose. This alienation is not just an economic issue, but an existential one. Life becomes a series of empty obligations, where routine and bureaucracy replace meaning and genuine engagement. The feeling of emptiness, chronic stress, and the incessant search for something that gives meaning to existence are symptoms of this invisible prison. The individual may feel trapped, but often does not know how to identify the cause or how to escape. Despite the harshness of the iron cage, Max Weber also offers us a path of hope. Conscious resistance to excessive rationalization and the search for humanization within the system. Resistance begins with awareness, recognizing the limits of the bureaucratic and rationalized model and its dehumanizing effects. From there, it is possible to cultivate spaces of autonomy, creativity, and authenticity, even if small, within the routine. Artistic, philosophical, and spiritual pursuits and true relationships serve as antidotes to the mechanization of life. These experiences allow us to restore the meaning, connection, and spirit that the system seeks to erase. Furthermore, social criticism and the search for organizational alternatives and lifestyles that prioritize human well-being are important forms of collective resistance. Weber reminds us that despite rigid structures, freedom can be found in gaps and conscious choices, showing that humanity can survive even amid the invisible prisons of modernity. Throughout this text, we delve into Max Weber's analysis of how the relentless pursuit of efficiency and extreme rationalization have transformed modern life into an iron cage, an invisible prison that limits our freedom, creativity, and humanity. We have seen how bureaucracy and rationalization, despite bringing order and progress, fragment the individual, alienate his essence, and strip existence of meaning. We also understand that the disenchantment of the world, the work ethic, and the mechanization of relationships deepen this imprisonment. However, Weber leaves us with an important message. Awareness of this system is the first step towards resistance and the search for humanization. Finding spaces of authenticity, cultivating true relationships, and developing a critical stance towards structures are possible paths to regaining humanity. Although the cage seems vast and invincible, the human capacity for adaptation, creativity, and hope gives us the means to find gaps of freedom and meaning, even within the limitations of modernity. May this text be an invitation to deep reflection on the price of progress and the importance of preserving what makes us